Hello, this is the third in what will be 4 videos. This one we're going to look at creating tests using a test bank from a publisher, and then I'll also show you how you can create a short test. I'm only saying short test because this is a manual installation of a test, one question at a time, and you may not want to do 500 of them. You may only want to do, say, 15, 20, or 25. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's go down. Where we want to go here is, we're going to close up the Grade Center, into Course Tools. Now right near the bottom, Test, Surveys, and Pools. That's where we want to go. So I'm going to click on that. Now, let's say, and a lot of publishers have these, if you have a textbook from a publisher and the publisher gives you access to faculty resources or instructor resources, you'll get PowerPoints and instructor's manual, but you may also get either a test bank or Word documents with test questions from each chapter. But if you get a test pool, you click on Pool. Now you can build a pool within Blackboard, but it's a labor-intensive process. But instead, if you get one from the publisher, all you're really going to do is you're going to click here, Import Pool, and it's a typical go find your stuff. Now I've put mine on my desktop. Now let me spread this open a little bit. When you get a test bank, it'll be a zip file. If it's not a zip file, it's not a test bank that we can use this way, and I would need to know what format it would be, but typically test sets are made in this. So you click one, you can do only one at a time, but you can do more than one. So we're going to choose that one, and then we'll go to Submit, and it's basically going to put it in the pool. And we can collect chapters to put into the pool so that I can make my test out of chapters 1, 2, and 3. It's telling me that it's done so. I go OK, and there's my test set. It's got 160 questions in it. I can look at them by Edit, and it'll pull up all my questions. Now if I show you them all, you'll see that they will have more than just multiple choice. We'll slide down here a bit, and there's some true and false, essay, short answer. So there's a collection of different tests in each pool, and that will depend on the publisher and the author as to what you'll find. So we'll go back to Pools, and we're going to import another pool. We're going to do a test out of the 3, so we'll do the research one as well, and we'll submit that. It takes a moment because these files can tend to be a little bit on the larger side, but they've been compressed, and Blackboard will decompress them and make them available for us. There's number 2, and we'll do a third one, because I want to show you how to create a test using the multiples, because you often don't test on one chapter, although you may. Okay, and this will be the third one, and then we'll OK it when it goes through, and it will do so shortly. Okay, there are my 3 pools. Now we can't create a test in the pool section. We have to go to Test. So we'll go back to this interface, go over to Tests, and now we could import a test. Now if we do that, it has to be in a particular format, and not all tests that I've tried have gone in and been effective. Alright, so I'm going to show you an alternative way. But we're going to build a test. So we're going to call this, my creativity abounds, test 1. And we'll put instructions in here. Maybe we'll say this is going to be 45 questions or 50 multiple choice questions, or maybe we'll do, multiple choice and true and false. You can put short answer and essays in online classes. You can put a variety of questions in. Some of the challenges associated with it is, for example, a short answer or an essay, you need to put in some of the keywords that must be a part of the assignments or of the answer to be counted as correct by Blackboard. Now that doesn't account for examples that you'll have of students who will have different ways of expressing an answer correctly, but differently than the words you've put in there. Maybe you didn't capture them all. And so you still will have to go into the Grade Center, look at each individual test to see if there isn't a correct answer that wasn't given credit, which is fine. It's just you have to be aware that that might be the case. So we're going to just do a large group of multiple choice and a large group of true and false, and we're going to make them randomly sampled, so it makes it harder. They won't get the same questions if they were to do more than one attempt, and they won't see the same questions with the neighbor beside them if they're doing a test beside somebody. And so there might be other instructions you might want to give. I'm going to pass on those, but you can put in that whatever you want, whatever you think is important for them to know. Okay. So now we've got our test 1 test canvas. There isn't a description or instructions. Whatever I had put in as description and instructions in the previous window would be here. And currently there's no questions and no points. Now I could create a question, and this is where you would create your own test. I might choose a multiple choice, but I'll come back to that. Well, I'll start here. We'll say we're going to do a multiple choice. Now, we don't have to put a title in. There's no asterisk. But we do need to put a test question in. So you put a test question in. This is just, how do you want it numbered? You have some choices. You can do it vertically or horizontally for your answer orientation. Do you want to allow partial credit? Well, that kind of depends on the question. And do you want the answers in random order so that if the correct answer in this case is answer 1 is A, you could, in the next time the question comes up, have it changed to answer to be C or D or B. Then you put in an answer for 1, an answer for 2, and an answer for 3, and an answer for 4. Say you want it to be 3 is the correct answer. You can offer feedback for when it's a correct answer, and offer feedback for incorrect, or you can leave that alone. You can add categories. These would be things for you and your keeping track of what quality of the question that you're offering, and are they distributed in a way you're happy with. And then you would submit it, and you would repeat. If you were doing 20 questions, you would repeat for 20 questions, and you would have created a test for 20 questions in an online delivery multiple choice. Now, of course, if we come back to the top here, and I'm going to cancel that for a minute, and we could create a number of different questions. Okay? But for this example, I want to spend more of my time on reusing the questions that we've already put into the pool, and we want to create a random block. Now this allows us to create a block of questions that will be randomly selected for students in their test. And we get to select, I'm going to pull this over and open up in a different window. There we go. It's going to allow us to select from those 3 chapters. So I'm going to say, oh, yes, I want this pool to conclude these 3 chapters. So they've been highlighted. And I don't want all pool questions. I just want the multiple choice ones. So it will select them for me. And if I have 299 multiple choice questions, outstanding. That's a good number. If I'm doing a test out of, say, 40 or 45, I can do 35 of them, and I'd have 1 in 8, 1 in 9 chance of having that question repeated in a particular test. So I'm going to say, fine, submit those. So there's my first. I'm saying first because I can add another random block. So I've got a random block currently where there's 1 test question worth 10 marks. I have 299 questions down here. So I want to change a few things. One, this is only going to be 1 point. So I'm going to take that 0 off and I'm submitting it. Now it's got 1 question worth 1 point. Because I've over here, the number of questions to display is 1. Well, I want that to change to 45. So right now I've got 45 questions that are multiple choice. Now when I'm thinking about that, I want to change that. I want 35 multiple choice because I'm going to do 10. I'm going to do 10 of true and false, just to show you that we can do this. We can have multiple random blocks. So now we're going to do that. We're going to add another question or another random block. So we come up here, random block. We're going to pick these 3 chapters again. But now, instead of picking multiple choice, we're going to pick true and false. And we've gotten 100 questions. All right, so I'm going to do 10 to bring my test up to 45, and that'll give them a 1 in 10 chance of having that same question. So I submit that, and we do the same thing. Not in this one, down here. I want this to be out of 10 questions. That brings our overall test up to 45 right there. But we want to change the points as well to 1. Submit. So now we have 2 random blocks. One is the multiple choice questions and one is the true and false questions. They total 45 and there's 45 marks. That's exactly what I want. So now I go OK, and there's my test. Now it's sitting in the area under tests, surveys, and pools, in the area which holds the tests. So now I go to my weekly learning, and I'm going to use what I've used before. Let's say that I have a test that's available to be written in week 6. I go to week 6. I go under assessment, and this is where you go collect your test. So I'm going to say, yeah, I want a test, and I want not to create a test. I want that test, the one I've already made, test 1. I'm going to submit that. Now it's going to give me a bunch of options. Now if I needed to, I could add another description or add additional description. I don't want this opening in a new window. I want this to be in Blackboard. Now for test availability, when the test date is available, I want it available to them. I can have it create a new announcement. Now I'm going to do this because I want to show you what you can do with that. Now in my classes, I give them multiple attempts. I give them 2. And the highest grade is what will be going into Grade Center. And I give a time. So I'm going to set a timer for 3 hours. And I'm going to set this auto submit on that when 3 hours are done, the test closes whether you're done or not. Now the alternative to that would be forced completion. You don't get multiple attempts, that once you start, you must complete in one sitting. And that might be appropriate for what you want. Now this is, as you noticed up here, make available to students. Yes, on this day, in the future, on the 18th, at 8 in the morning to February 22 at 5 p.m. Now you can set whatever date time frame that you feel you want. You could have it open for 1 day. You could have it open for 3 hours. You can have it open for 5 days. You need to think about what your testing needs to be given what your content is, and the bigger your bank is, then it doesn't matter that they're sitting, watching, and looking at one another. They're not going to be having the same test questions coming up, and that's helpful. Coming down here now, if you have students with accommodations in your class, you used to have to come up with a second test and post both tests, one for students with accommodations and one for students without accommodations. Now all you need to do is click Add User or Group. When you click on this, now because I have no students in here, there's no students there. Otherwise my class would show up here, and those students that do have accommodation forms that I have in my possession, there's a box that I can click on those students that get time and a half. When I submit them, I know there's none, cancel, their names will be listed down here, and then I could say, okay, you're going to get 240 minutes rather than 180. You're going to get time and a half. And I could, there's a few other options there, but what I'm saying is that you can just add your students with accommodations right there. This again is related to the calendar. I want the grade center calculations included for this test. If you want, after they've done their first test or their only test, you can say you can get the submitted answers and the correct answers on your specific test after it's done. You might be able to, you might have feedback that you want to give them, or you might want to show the incorrect questions. You have some options for feedback at the end. Now the last thing is, I don't want to have them see the test all at once. I want them to see one question at a time, just focus on one thing. I want to prohibit backtracking. If they are working in small groups, I don't want the availability of saying, well, I just had that question, let's back it up and I'll find you what I got and we'll get the right answer. And I want to randomize the questions. So out of my test bank, it'll randomly select questions for each student doing the test, so they won't get the same test questions or in the same order every time a test is being done. So now when I submit it, there's my test. It's available, it's hidden to them until the day of the test. I can change those options I just did, or I can edit the test the way in the test canvas where I set it up with the number of questions in the random blocks. I want to be able to put enable, because I want them to know that they should click that they've done it. And to double check, I want to see that the set review status is enabled and statistics tracking is on. And it's defaulted to off there, so it's now on. So now I keep some data on that as well. Now, it says it's going to, remember I set it to create an announcement. Let's go into the announcements. And there it is there. It's not going to be released until the day of the test. It gives them a link they can take right to that week where the test is. But I might want to rename that in some way. I might want to say, test 1 is now available. We'll go available. And I might leave it like that. I'll leave these dates because they are correct, and I'll submit that. And it says it won't be ready until then. So this announcement, when the test opens, will pop up and make it available for them to be seen. Okay? All right, well, basically I showed you how to create a test from a test bank, and I did demonstrate just quickly how to create a test if you were to do so one question at a time and have it posted on Blackboard. Alrighty, I hope this has been helpful. If there's other ideas that come to mind, please let me know. The fourth video that I'm going to do is going to be using Respondus. Now I'll be using a different software to create it. It's on a PC. The software works best on a PC. So I'll show you and demonstrate how to do that, including what formatting. And what I'll basically do is a multiple choice and true and false test, just to show you how that goes in through using a software called Respondus. All right. Good luck, everyone. I hope your semester goes well. Bye now.